ET 605, this is part 3 of class 6, which is going to be a demonstration of going through and doing the class activity. So if you're in Moodle, as you've read on the class 6 agenda, the spreadsheet activity is in Moodle that you guys are going to be doing and then submitting by next Tuesday's class. So if you click on the spreadsheet activity directions, it will open up the particular activity that you guys have to do today, which is doing a little practice with spreadsheets and using some data on nutrition, which will, on this snow day, of course, make us feel wonderful about, all the good stuff that we're eating that we shouldn't probably be eating. But it will give you some information of what you need to do today. Okay, so first and foremost, it says to open up a new spreadsheet in Excel. You can save it if you want to start. So I'll just save mine in class 6, and I'll say you make sure you want to put your last name. Spreadsheet activity is always good. That way, when you go to submit it, it'll have your name in there so I can actually identify you, which is always good. And then it says you're going to go to nutritiondata.com, which I already have pulled up. And in nutritiondata.com, you are going to actually go to the search bar, which is right over here, and you can enter the name of a fast food restaurant that you want to search. So I'm going to do one that is always fun. So I'm going to do White Castle, even though I've only been there once. And I can go through with White Castle. And what it will do with this particular restaurant, and I apologize for the ads, it will give you some of their foods that they commonly have. So it says once you choose a food from the restaurant, you want to go down and actually click on it, and you'll be able to see the nutrition information from that particular thing. So I'm going to choose the bacon cheeseburger because that's what I'm craving right now. And what it will do is it will actually give you the nutrition information about the bacon cheeseburger from White Castle. So what I'm particularly focused on today for you guys is this part here, the nutrition facts, where you're going to find some information and have to put that in your spreadsheet. So it says step 5 that you are actually going to gather the % daily value from the nutrition label and add it into your spreadsheet. So we're essentially going to create a little spreadsheet that looks just like this. So if you want to go to Excel and start setting up your spreadsheet, so you want to do a food, this will be your column that's related to food, and then you want to do one that is total fat, which is what we're going to gather, and then you want to do one that is cholesterol. Make sure I spell it right. Don't judge me for being an English teacher who can't spell. And then you want to do sodium, and then you want to do carbohydrates and pull that off of there. Total carbohydrates. Now, you'll notice that as you make this, like for instance, this one falls a little bit over, and I actually want it to fit in this particular space. So if I double click like that, it will make it fit in the particular column. Now, if I wanted to make sure that they all fit, I could select them all, go up to Format, go to Column, and hit Auto Fit Selection, which will make them each closest to whatever their particular size is. If I don't want to do that, I can actually select all of the columns, go up to Column, and then hit Standard Width. Let's say I want to make them an inch each, and that will kind of give us a little bit of data. So I'm going to make mine, and you can auto fit, you can do a particular width, and that will make it that way. But I'm just going to leave it like this because I want this to actually fit in that particular document. Now, it says I'm going to go through and choose my food, and I'm going to select information about the total fat, the cholesterol, the sodium, and the total carbohydrates. So I'm going to go first and look back to my web page where I have the White Castle bacon cheeseburger. So I'm going to do White Castle bacon cheeseburger. And I'm going to double click it so it fits that particular selection, and I'm going to go through and pull this over so we can see it a little bit easier. And I am going to select the total fat. Now I want to do this in percents. So when I did this last time, I typed in 20, and then I actually wanted to view this in percent. So I went to the number tab and clicked on percentage, and it made it 2,000%. And even you can take away the decimal points. So what I would suggest doing, if you know that you're going to pull information from 6 of these, I would delete the information and then off the bat select the cells that are going to be in the percentage range, Because if you select here in number, you can format your numbers that you input in any particular way. So if you wanted to do it and make it look like the date, it would do it as a date. I'm going to select them all as percentage, so that way when I type in 20, it automatically makes it a percent. If I don't want it to have the decimal points, I can use these two buttons here and delete or add as many decimal points as I want, and it won't let me go less. So I would suggest changing the formatting of your cells to percentage ahead of time, so that way when you go to put them in, it will automatically read that this is a percentage and not a number, so that way when you go to change it in the end, you don't get 2,000%, but you get 20%. So the cholesterol I want to add, which is down here, is 8%. The sodium that I want to add is 17%, and the carbohydrates is 4%. So notice they each went in and had their percent signs. So you're going to go through, and it says on the activity directions that for step 6, you are going to repeat steps 2 through 4 to gather food about 6 different foods. You can either get all the information about White Castle food or whatever fast food restaurant you choose, or you could do a variety of different foods, just something that collects some data. So I actually did this a little bit ahead of time, so I am going to just select my ones from before that I already did to give you a little preview, and I'm going to paste them in there. So these are the data that I've chosen. So you'll notice when I pasted it in my old document, I actually had the formatting. I wanted to make everything with a box, and you can do that by selecting all of your information that you wanted as a box, and then find this little icon right here, which is the borders. And if you wanted to have everything boxed out, you can choose the one that looks like a little grid, all borders. You can actually also modify it. So say I wanted this to be all one box. You could actually delete all the borders, and then since you selected this, you can just choose outside borders. So now my border only appears on the outside, but I don't really like that for this purpose, so I'm actually going to do all borders. Okay, so I've gone through and I've collected my information from, I did a bunch of different burgers. Now notice how they all don't fit here. I can just double click, and that'll make them all fit within this particular column. And it says after you've entered the information from the spreadsheet using the appropriate data, you should get a spreadsheet that looks like this. Then it says we're going to add kind of 3 categories where we're using the formulas. We're going to look at average, we're going to look at the max, which is the highest number, or the highest percentage in our case, and we're going to look at min. So after, and you could choose to use a space, you can put this at the bottom, you can put it right below it, doesn't matter. I'm going to make this my average category. I'm going to make this my highest and my lowest. So you'll notice what I want to do here is I want my average of the total fat of all of the cheeseburgers to appear here. So I can do this one of 2 ways. I can go up here to the little icon and select average from there, or I can actually go to formulas, insert, or AutoSum is the basic one that will give you the average, or insert, and I can go through and do different ones from there. I'm just going to do this little icon up here, which is kind of best, and I'm going to click average. And you'll notice that it automatically, since I'm at the column right below, will select the ones above it. And notice how the formula is written. They always begin with an equal sign, then they will have the particular code that you're using, and then it says B2 through B6. So you'll notice that in Excel, each cell is actually given a particular number. So this is, if you click, this is the B column. So this cell is actually known as B2 because it's in the B column. So I'm going to delete that so I can show you one more time. So you'll notice if you are doing this, you can actually type it in yourself if you wanted. It doesn't matter if it's capital or lowercase. Now notice I want to start my number. So if I want to do B2, but I actually wanted to go all the way down to here, which is B6, I could enter it that way and put it in myself. I think that's too much work. I just like actually going in, hitting my formula, average, and then you can select, if you click on one and you hold down shift and then click on the top one, it will select them all if it doesn't automatically do that. And notice it'll find my average of the column of the total fat of each product is 51%. So I'm going to actually add my borders so it looks a little bit neater. I have all my borders there. Now, if I don't want to do this and go through each time and hit average, go through here, I can actually copy and paste here. And you'll notice it gave me the average of all these and it changed my formula. So it made it not B2 and B6, but it made it C2 and C6 because it's going to use the columns from there. You could do the same thing here and paste it, and same thing here as well. That's a really helpful tool, so that way you don't have to go through each time and type in your particular formula that you need to use. The next one we're going to do is highest, which is using the max formula, which is listed down here. And you can find that from up here as well, or you can type it in as well. So I'm going to click max. And notice it automatically selects the average column. So we don't actually want the average column included because that's not part of our original data. So you can click and drag. Oops. You can actually click. Let me delete. If you do it by accident, you can just select which ones that you want and skip the average column. So if you're doing it here, you can do max. You don't actually want to use this particular column. So there you go. If you hover over the corner, it'll give you the little outline. You can click and just drag up so that way you're not selecting the average, and click OK. And then again, just like we did in average, you can copy and paste and it will give you the formula for each individual one. So that's going to tell us in this particular data set, B2 through B6, our highest percentage was 71%, which was the Carl's Jr. Sourdough Ranch Bacon Cheeseburger, which sounds amazing. However, 71% fat is pretty scary. So now we're going to do the lowest. We've done all of our averages, we've done our highest, and now we're going to do our lowest, which we're going to use the min function. So if you go here to the min function, again, we don't want it to select the highest and the lowest because that's not part of our data range. So if we hover over, we can just click and drag that way, and we're going to choose from B2 to B6, or we can actually type it in. So if we do min, parentheses starts what we actually want to do. So we want to do C2 and then colon to C6, and then we end our parentheses, and that will do it as well. So that tells us our lowest cholesterol was 8%, and again, we can just copy and paste if we like. And you can, after this is what you just need for your data. So you've got a listing of your food. We have all of our percentages. We have our average percentages, our highest, and our lowest. And if you actually click on the cells with a function in them, if you look up into the toolbar at the top, it won't tell you 51% like it is in here, whereas this cell doesn't have a formula. In the formulas that are in the cells, it will give you what the formula is up here, and it will tell you certain ones that we've actually included. If you want to modify your columns, you can totally do that. You can make them bold if you select them. So say you wanted your titles to be bold, you could actually fill them with a particular color. Say you wanted them to be yellow. If you wanted your numbers to be bolded, or again, you can make them different colors. If you know that you wanted your average to be, green, you can make your average green. If you wanted your highest to be, red, and then your lowest to be blue, you can totally do that, or you can leave it plain, or you can shade it however you want. You can also insert a row in between by right-clicking and hitting insert, or going up to insert rows, and then it will put one above. And notice it doesn't change any of the formulas. It actually will just kind of modify it. So that way when you go to see it, you'll have this particular data listed like this. You can use all the fun colors, or you can just make it plain. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to keep mine plain. All right. So now that we've actually created our data chart, you guys actually want to go through and create a chart to display your data in a separate format. So you can go up and do this by using the charts the charts formula that you go up through here. And in this little drop down, you can use it on this side, or if you're on the PC side, there also is a charts tab that you can use as well. And you want to actually select the data that you want to include in your chart. For our purposes, I'm going to delete that extra row just in case it gives us any trouble, and I can keep mine just like this. And then you can choose which particular graph you would like to use. Now, a pie chart really isn't going to display the data pretty well for us, because we in our data want to display that each individual cheeseburger has total fat of this percent, cholesterol of this percent, sodium of this percent, and carbohydrate of this percent. So we probably don't want to do a pie chart, because if we select the data that we want included and we do a pie chart, which is literally just clicking on pie and then selecting which one, it doesn't really kind of give us much data. It tells us like it's not a good representation of the data. So I don't like that one. For this, our purposes, I think it would be best to use a column bar chart. You can use this one or you could use a column. It's totally up to you. And if you click on clustered column and you've selected your data, it actually does everything for you, which is super nice, especially if you're doing SLO data and you really need to prove to your administrator that you've done something in particular, impressive. This is a great way of displaying it. So you'll notice since we collected our data, it actually will create a chart based on our percentages. So it gives us up to 80% because nothing was above 80%, and it gives us to 0%. And it breaks down for each of our axes. It has our burgers, and then it has each for that. And we also get a little key that will give us some information along those lines as well. So if we wanted to change the color, we could go through and change the color. I would leave it though, just in case that gives us a little bit of information. But it automatically makes a particular chart based on our data. So if we look at the White Castle bacon cheeseburger, it's going to tell us using our key that total fat is 20%. And you'll notice if you hover over it, it will give you the information a little more detailed. So it'll say 14%, 15%, or 51% that goes through. And it'll give you a little bit of information that's up here, but it just gives a visual kind of pleasing manner to display your data. So what I would like for you to do, since we already saved it once, you can just save it again, Control S. And you, after you've gone through and created either for, specific food from one fast food restaurant or food from, or a similar dish from different restaurants, you can go through and save this all in one particular worksheet. You can actually copy and paste this into a new sheet. You'll have tabs into in Excel that you can use kind of like to make two separate pages. So you can make this, if we deleted our chart, I can make this my data page, and you can double click on it and I can make this my chart page. And note that I have two separate pages, so I have the data on here, so that way when I go to print it, it prints on two separate documents, or I can leave them all together. It is totally up to you. And then you're going to go into Moodle. So let's click back into Moodle and click on Submit Your Spreadsheet here, and then just upload. Remember, the activities that we do in class are not graded, but they are a way of practicing some of the skills that you're going to need to demonstrate on the final exam. Again, if you need any additional resources for spreadsheets, you can kind of go through and click on them as you need. I put in an example SLO spreadsheet, student learning objective, that you'll have to do when you're in the classroom if you haven't already experienced it with your mentor teacher. One for science that uses formulas, and one for English. This is mine from my class for this last year that uses formulas. There's an example gradebook spreadsheet, although you could do a hard copy Excel gradebook, although I would suggest using the online platforms that most of the counties use. But it's just an extra way of creating a gradebook that you might use. Again, and this is that sampling of formulas that is looks like this, that you can go through and kind of use as a guide. Assignments for next class, pretty much just make sure that you have submitted this spreadsheet activity by Moodle to Moodle by next class. Let me know if you want feedback or you want me to look at anything in particular, and you can always email me and I'll get back to you. Make sure that you've added your tech resource to the Google Doc by the end of class 7, which is next class, so that way even if it's not finished, we just need the hyperlink so we have access to it, because again, we're building that technology community where we're able to share resources. Make progress on your tech resource. So after you've done your spreadsheet activity, if you're doing it right now in class time, like if you're sitting there at 4:30 trying to get this done, that's great. Just make sure that you are meeting either at another time with your partners to work on the project, or if you are, have some point where you can actually meet with them and talk about your project, because they're going to be due not next class, but the following class, which is March 10th. Just check out just some fun stuff, teachertipsonlynda.com. They're always going to give you information that is cool to learn and use in your classrooms, and it might give you some ideas for your learning activity assignments, which we'll talk about next class. And then since we're going to do a little more advancement with spreadsheets in next class, bring a spreadsheet that you think you might want to add formulas to. So if it's a gradebook spreadsheet, or if you were collecting participation points, if you have anything about field trips, you can use any of those things. And then again, practice your technology skills. So go ahead and make sure that you're going through everything for the spreadsheet activity, and that everything you need is in Class 6 agenda that you've gone through and done. And if you have any questions about what you need to do for this particular class, feel free to email me and I will definitely get back to you guys. Hope you stay warm. See you later.